Very good morning. Today we are talking about one way between the subject analysis of variance ANOVA. This is also known as one way ANOVA, and in our talks today we'll be just saying one way ANOVA. When is one way ANOVA conducted? One way ANOVA is conducted when we have got two variables, independent and dependent. Independent variable is in multi-nominal form and dependent variable is in scale form. What it basically means? Let's have an example here. I'm talking about your class. Suppose your class has got 50 students and these students come from different locations. Few come from Dehradun, few from Hardwar, few from Rishikesh, and few from Jolly Grant. So this way, the independent variable happens to be location, which has got four groupings or categories. A is Dehradun, B is Hardwar, C is Rishikesh, and D is Jolly Grant. And we are trying to see that how the CGPA obtained by students from different locations of Dehradun, Hardwar, Rishikesh, and Jolly Grant differ. And so the dependent variable is the CGPA scored by students in semester 1 and semester 2 combined. So if you look at this example, you will see we have got an independent variable which has got more than two categories, and we have got a dependent variable which is in scale form. In such a scenario, if we are to see whether the categories in independent variable differ or are same for the dependent variable, we are conducting one-way ANOVA. So one-way ANOVA, precisely if we are talking about, is used when the means of two or more independent groups are compared on a dependent variable of interest. And with the one-way between subjects ANOVA, the independent variable is a between subject factor where each participant receives only one level of factor. That is, each person is in single group. So let's come to the example which we'll be using today for our understanding of one-way ANOVA. As a part of class required research project, a student was interested in investigating whether there was a difference between the three different learning strategies. The strategies being used were A, B, and C on world recall. 30 students who agreed to participate in the studies were randomly assigned to receive one of the three strategies, with 10 students in each strategy group. After learning the strategy of interest, the students were shown a list of 15 words for 5 minutes and were asked to remember as many of the words as possible using the new strategy. After a brief delay, each student wrote down as many of the words as he could or she could remember from the list, with the researcher recording the number of words correctly recalled for each participant. The independent variable in this study is a type of learning strategy, that is A, B, and C, and dependent variable is the number of words correctly recalled. So if you look at this particular example, here we have got three types of students, A, B, and C. Depending on the type of learning, you can say strategy they have gone for, whether they have gone for A strategy, they have gone for B strategy, or they have gone for C strategy on world recall. And then when later on they were assigned, you can say 15 words to be you can say seen for 5 minutes, and then after some time they were asked to you can say recall and tell that how many words they could exactly remember, and that was you can say that is recall basically becomes the dependent variable. Now if you look at the objective here, the objective here is to test whether the means of two or more group differ significantly on a dependent variable of interest. In our case, the independent variable happens to be the learning strategy adopted, that is either category A, category B, or category C, and the dependent variable happens to be the number of words recalled. Now coming to the data requirements for any one-way ANOVA is that the independent variable should be in categorical form. In this example of ours, we have got three categories: category A, category B, and category C of learning strategy adopted. And the dependent variable, which is in scale form, is the number of words recalled by each of these 30 students who were either going for strategy A, strategy B, or strategy C of learning. Now coming to null and altered hypothesis. Null hypothesis assumes that the mean of each of the categories of independent variable is same or similar. There is not much of difference as far as the recall level of students either going for strategy A, strategy B, or strategy C of learning is concerned. So if you look at, you can say the null hypothesis, it can be spoken as that Hn colon mu strategy A is equal to mu strategy B is equal to mu strategy C. Whereas if you look at, you can say the altered hypothesis, it suggests that at least one of the three strategies, you can say the mean value will differ from the remaining two. So that is what you can say the alternate strategy is, that at least one of the population mean is different from others. So coming to the, can say how we are evaluating whether we should accept the null hypothesis or the alternate hypothesis. So we are, you can say, doing the ANOVA test, and after ANOVA test, we get F value, which is a value for, you can say, ANOVA, and then we have got the significance. If significance comes to, you can say, is more than 0.05, we are accepting the null hypothesis. If significance comes to less than 0.05 or even equal to 0.05, we are accepting the alternate hypothesis. And coming to research question is something we always ask whenever we are doing the analysis, because this is the question we have to answer. If you remember the example which we have talked right now about word recall, in this case also, we are just trying to see which are these three strategies similar as far as the word recall is concerned. So the research question is, does the number of words recalled depend upon the type of learning strategy used? So that being the case here, I repeat the thing. Research question is, does the number of words recalled depend upon the type of learning strategy used? So that being the case here, we are straight away moving to the new share where we'll be opening the SPSS file. I've already got a blank SPSS file for you here, and I'm moving to the I'm moving to, you can say, the data view. So we are just pasting the data. I've already copied the data there, so I'm pasting data here. So the data has been pasted, and this is what the data is. And we have got, you can say, the three, you can say, categories of independent variable, and then we have got the dependent variable. So we'll just rename the things. Variable 1 will be, you can say, known by the name, you can say, strategy. So strategy basically here is learning strategy. So what learning strategy you're using? And if you look at the values we are writing, one is by A, two is basically B, and three is C. So these are labels we are using. So I'm adding up here. I'm saying okay, and then we are going for the measure. Measure is nominal here. It is multinomial because we have got three categories. Coming to, you can say, the second variable, which is dependent variable, is recall. Actually, it is, you can say, word recall, which I am mentioning in the label. And then values are not to be mentioned because number of word recall itself has got a meaning that how many words the respondent or student in this case is remembering. The measure naturally is scale. So if you look at the data view, we have got the strategy as independent variable and then recall as the dependent variable. Now coming to the analysis part, we are going to analyze, compare means, and finally we are clicking on one way ANOVA. We get a box. In this box, learning strategy, which is independent variable, is being pushed to factor. Word recall is the dependent variable, which is being pushed to dependent list. We click on options, we click on descriptives, and you can say homogeneity of variance test. We're clicking on this, we click on continue, we click on post hoc, and then click on Turkey here. So we are clicking on Turkey, we click on continue, and then we simply say okay, and I'll be taking you to the new share of the output file for you to see the output. So this is the output we are getting. So the output file is before you, and we are getting the output here. So before we start, you can say analyzing test, let us again go back and continue to conduct the same test again, just for our understanding and ensuring that we are able to do test or understand the steps used in the test. So I'm repeating again, you go to analyze, you go to compare means, you go to one way ANOVA. This is what we are getting. Learning basically is the independent variable which will come as a factor. Word recall is dependent variable which will come as dependent list. We click on options, we click on descriptives and homogeneity of variance test. Click on continue. Post hoc we are clicking. I'm clicking on Turkey and then clicking on continue and then clicking finally on OK to come with the actual answer in the output file. So this is what we are getting. Now, if you look here, the answers we are getting is that we have got A, B, and C, the three strategies for word recall being, you can say, used. The number of participants who went for strategy A is 10, B is 10, and C is 10. And then we have got the mean. The mean that is coming up is 8.9 for the people who went for strategy A. So they could remember 8.9 words out of 15. For strategy B, they could recall 10.2, you can say, words. For strategy C, they could recall 4.7 words. So that is given to us. And then we have got the standard deviation of 1.52, 1.39, and 1.49 respectively. Now coming to, you can say, the test of heterogeneity of variables. This is very important, and we'll be just looking at the first line here, nothing more. So this is important. We were talking about, you can say, Levin's test of equality of variances when we are doing independent sample t-test. The same test comes up here also. And if you frankly look up, there is not much of difference as far as independent sample t-test and one-way ANOVA is concerned, except for the fact that independent sample t-test, when we are conducting, in that case, the independent variable happens to have only two categories, not more than that. Whereas in case of one-way ANOVA, the independent variable can have more than two categories. That's the only added advantage of using one-way ANOVA. So please use one-way ANOVA whenever you have the independent variable in categories more than two. So here, if you look at our example, even the learning strategy we have got are three, A, B, and C. And therefore, we are using independent sample T. Sorry, we are not using independent sample t-test. Rather, we are using one-way ANOVA. So if you look at, you can say, the test of homogeneity of variances or Levin's test. Here the significance comes to 0.980. This means that the variances are homogeneous for the three categories of independent variable in the population. So the test of homogeneity of variances is okay. We go for the ANOVA answer. And if you look at the ANOVA answer, that comes, the F value is there, the significance is there. Before that, we should be always clear on something called effect size. Effect size actually talks about that whether the test or the answer or the analysis we are getting is something, you can say, which is small, medium, or large. In this case of ours, when we are talking about, you can say, one-way ANOVA, the effect size is denoted by eta square. So that's something I'll be showing you. You can say when we actually look at the final exam answer. And if you look at, you can say the eta square is equal to sum of squares between group, sum of squares between group divided by total, you can say sum of squares. So we have in the numerator as 165.26767 as the numerator, and we have got 223.867 as denominator. And answer, if you look at, comes to 0.74. That's the answer we are getting. So not talking much about, you can say, the effect size, but we know the formula for effect size, number one, and we know what's the answer. So almost you can say 0.74 is the answer here for effect size. And then we are having, you can say, the F value. The F value is 38 something, and significance is 0.000. So that's there, that's there. So we know that, okay, fine, we have to go for alternate hypothesis, and we have to accept the alternate hypothesis. But then, frankly speaking, we are more keen about knowing whether there is differences between A or B, or B or C, or A or C. So we are just trying to look at the differences, where the differences exist, or do the difference exist for A, B, and C, all three? So that is to be seen. And to see that difference, we are coming to something called post hoc test, where we are doing the world recall test. So we are looking at that particular aspect here, and coming to the answer here, where we are talking about the world recall. So if you look at the, you can say, the world recall here, what you will find is that um, the differences are there. Definitely differences are there, but differences happens to be, you can say, between A and C, or B and C. Not much of, you can say, differences happen for you can say, A and B, and A and B. So the differences actually exist. If you look at, you can say, A and B, the difference is not that significant. But if you look at A and C, the difference happens to be, you can say, quite significant. If you look at a B and A, the difference is not significant, but B and C, the difference is significant. So frankly speaking, if you look at the C part, that is the actual answer. The differences exist between C for A also significant, and for B also significant. So we find there is no significant difference as far as learning strategy A and B are concerned, but there is a significant difference as far as learning strategy A and C, or B and C are concerned. So that is the answer we are getting. So keeping the answer in mind, we are moving back to our initial screen, where we'll be talking about the analysis part, and then trying to understand the things. So we had seen the data, and we all know that assumptions for one-way ANOVA takes place where, you can say, the observations are independent. The dependent variable is normally distributed for each groups in the population, and the variance for each of the groups are equal in population. So that's known to us. If you look at these points, you can say here step 8.8. So these steps of, you can say, conducting one-way ANOVA has already been seen by us here. And now we are coming to interpretation of result. So for interpretation of result, we have done one thing. We have seen the Levin's equality of test, or equality of population variances. So that we have assumed, and it's coming to, you can say, 0.05 in our case. Then we are going for, you can say, we are going for effect sizes. Effect size also we have seen. Eta square is equal to sum of squares between groups upon sum of total squares. So eta square is 165.267 upon 223.867, comes to nearly 0.74. So that's the answer we are getting. And if you look at, you can say, the cohons, you can say, convections for small, medium, and large effect sizes are, you can say, 0.01, 0.06, and 0.14. And since, you can say, for small it is 0.01, for medium it is 0.06, and for large it is 0.14. In our case, the answer is n eta square is equal to 0.74. Therefore we are going for we are going for a large, what do you call it? The answer is known to us. We are going for, you can say that the effect size is large. So it's 75.4% of world recall, you can say, is there, you can say. So you can say the value of 0.74 corresponds to a very large effect in practice and indicates that learning strategies accounted for 74% of the variance in world recall. So that's there. Now, how am I going to write the result? Look at the lines I've mentioned here. The number of words recalled varied by learning strategy used. F within brackets 2 is the 2 is basically, you can say, how many values of, you can say, degree of freedom. df1 is equal to uh, k minus 1, and k basically happens to be 3. We had 3 columns, or you can say 3 groups basically. So 3 minus 1 is 2, and df2 happens to be, you can say, n minus k, and we all know is 30 and k is 3. 30 minus 3 is 27. So f 2 comma 27 is equal to 38.07, where p happens to be less than 0.05. Eta square is 0.74, comma. Turkey's post hoc procedure indicated that those who use strategy A, m is equal to 8.90, s is equal to 1.552, and those who use strategy B, m is equal to 10.20 and sd is equal to 1.40, recalled significantly more words than those who use strategy C, where m is 4.70 and sd is 1.49. And therefore, we are saying that there was not a significant difference in the number of words recalled between strategies A and B. So that being the answer, will be, you can say, doing exercises 1 initially, which I'll be sending along with this particular video, and then maybe exercise 2 and 3 post, you can say, your submission of the assignment. So good luck and thank you.